Hey everybody, Angry Dude on the internet here. Look, we got another fight coming up, and this one will start out in the very most stupid way. However, the answer to this is going to be very, very ominous and extremely bad. Now, I need you to watch this and follow this all the way through to explain to you what the argument is going to be and what the answer to that is going to be and why this is so ominous. Now, this argument I have heard come up through three different House of Representatives now. There was Mr. Cohen, there was Ledger Fernandez, and there was Crockett. Now that Crockett has said something about this, now that this is going to be out there, it will go mainstream, and this will be an argument to be had. I want you all to get on top of this, and I want you all to go ahead and nip this in the bud before this becomes a thing. Now, the argument here has always been, people have started bringing up the fact that illegal immigration, that they will count on the census, they will give extra seats in Congress and things like that. Okay, so if that's a case, then wouldn't Texas benefit from that more than anybody else? I mean, if the illegal immigration is staying in Texas and they're coming through Texas and a lot of people are staying in Texas, wouldn't Texas benefit from having more representatives, having more seats in Congress, having more political power and voting power? Now, the first argument comes from Mr. Cohen. He is a representative of Memphis, Tennessee, and this is the first time this part of the argument ever came up to me, and I knew immediately it was going to be the next argument for this. Take a look.
Most of the immigration is coming through Texas, is it not?
Currently, yes.
And are most of those immigrants staying in Texas?
There are a lot of them staying in Texas, but they are routing throughout the country. It's affecting the whole nation.
But are most of them staying in Texas?
No.
Where are they going to?
Well, you'd have to ask each one of them where they're going.
I don't have time for that. You should have an idea.
I do know that the mayor of New York has expressed concerns about how many are arriving in his city, so there's a lot there.
Either Governor DeSantis or your governor have put them on airplanes and sent them to New York. Buses, airplanes, whatever, and sent them to Chicago and sent them to Denver. Other than those vacation tours that your governors have planned, where are these people going?
Well, you'd have to ask the Biden administration. They also bus individuals and fly individuals into the interior. Also, the local cities do as well. San Antonio, El Paso have all bused and brought people out of Texas, out of their cities.
I would suspect most of them are staying in Texas, more than any other state. And yet I read these proposals by certain Republicans, and Mr. Roy kind of got into it as well, that by mentioning Ms. Clark, that the Democrats allegedly are all in favor of the immigration folks, people coming into our country, because they want them to come into their districts for the census in 2030 to get more Congress people and more money. But most of the people are staying in Texas. And so it seems like Texas would get the congressman and Texas would get the money. So it doesn't make any sense that these states, and in fact, New York doesn't want them, and Chicago doesn't want them, and Denver doesn't want them. So they're obviously not caring about the 2030 census.
Now, this next clip comes from Ledger Fernandez. She is from New Mexico, and she touched on it a bit. Now, I call this woman Sawtooth, and you get it. I get it. I understand. I'm rude. I'm crass. I'm an asshole. I'll always be that. But I call her Sawtooth, and you'll see why here in a minute. But, yeah, she spoke up about it, and she had this to say. Not just 4 weeks ago. Here's the channel. House Rules. Rules Committee hearing. H.R. 6276 and House Res 1065. We're going to start an hour and 29 minutes and 22 seconds in. Second iteration. I heard this argument.
Thank you very much. Gentlelady from New Mexico is recognized for any questions she cares to ask the panel.
Thank you so much, Chairman. And thank you so much, Representative Jayapal, for having such a commonsensical response to that line of questioning.
We waste the secret weapon!
Because I want to point out to the gentleman from Kentucky, even though he has left now, that The top 3 states with the largest unauthorized immigration populations include Texas and Florida. Oh, are you leaving, Mr. Massey? I think it's really important to get to that. If you're saying we are doing this for some kind of reason regarding the Electoral College, that doesn't make any sense when you have Texas that had 1.6 million immigrant populations that was undocumented, Florida with 900,000, Nevada and Texas, Nevada, a purple state, had the highest shares of unauthorized, undocumented immigrants. Why? Because they are doing essential and important work in these economies. And I think that's the point that Representative Jayapal, you were trying to make over and over again, is that because we don't have these legal pathways that are bipartisan, like the Modernization Act, right? The Farm Worker Modernization Act, to make sure that those people coming from places that are sending, because of the climate crisis, which is real, and we have people who are leaving agrarian sectors because they can no longer grow crops because the sun is too hot and there is no water. Doesn't matter how much CO2 might be helping those plants. So when there's no water, they can't grow them. But we could use them here. And they are coming here. They're coming to places like Arkansas. They're working in the poultry plants. They are all over the place. So I think that pointing out the fact that it is not true, as I keep hearing on the other side, that we don't want to do anything about this. Quite the contrary. We have bills that are bipartisan that we pass that don't get taken up, that Republicans undermine. In fact, there are bills that maybe I don't agree with that make it through, that we've all talked about, that they don't want to take up. Instead, we do non-binding resolutions. It is the nothing burger. It is nada, right? No hay enchilada, no hay nada. There is nothing here. There isn't even a tasty enchilada. I'm going to yield to my ranking member.
Now, the next time I heard this argument was from Jasmine Crockett. Well, who is that?
As I prepared, I said, what is the crime? Because when you're talking about impeachment, you're talking about high crimes or misdemeanors. And I can't seem to find the crime. And honestly, no one has testified of what crime they believe the president of the United States has committed. But when we start talking about things that look like evidence, they want to act like they blind. They don't know what this is. These are our national secrets. Looks like in the to me. This looks like more evidence of our national secrets, say on a stage at Mar-a-Lago. When we're talking about somebody that's committed high crimes, it's at least indictments. Let's say 32 counts related to unauthorized retention of national security secrets, 7 counts related to obstructing the investigation, 3 false statements, 1 count of conspiracy to defraud the United States, falsifying business records, conspiracy to defraud the United States, 2 counts related to efforts to obstruct the vote certification proceedings, 1 count of conspiracy to violate civil rights, 23 counts related to forgery or false document statements, 8 counts related to soliciting, and I could go on because he's got 91 counts pending right now. But I will tell you what the president has been guilty of. He has unfortunately been guilty of loving his child unconditionally, and that is the only evidence that they have brought forward. And honestly, I hope and pray that my parents love me half as much as he loves his child. Until they find some evidence, we need to get back to the people's work, which means keeping this government open so that people don't go hungry in the streets of the United States. And I will yield.
On April 10th, during a GOP oversight committee and one titled full committee markup, I'll link it in the description as well, during a vote right there at the end, during a vote for, what is it, HR 7109? Yeah, Equal Representation Act. She actually had this to say.
Mr. Chair, parliamentary inquiry. I'm curious to know if it was brought out earlier that the state of Texas was able to gain 2 new seats in Texas because of the number of Latinos
What's your parliamentary inquiry?
That was my inquiry.
Sorry, out of order.
I'll be glad to answer that.
Now, Jasmine Crockett does have a bit of a social media following. She can have some people pointing at this whole situation and making this argument What happens when people like AOC get involved and start saying the same thing? This is going to be the next argument, and it is dumb. It is stupid. I want you all to get ahead of it. Simply for this one whole fact right here, this actually ends the debate. Let's recap. The question is, if illegals are counted on the census, and of course they would give more people in the House of Representatives, more seats in the House of Representatives, wouldn't that mean Texas benefits the most? Texas would get the most seats and they would have a bigger control? You're right, it would. But what happens when you give the illegals the right to vote through your social security number, through your last name? Your signature is now valid for that vote, and you move them into blue cities. Well, then you have a New York situation where New York City controls the entire New York. You'd have places like Houston and Dallas under literally majority rule. Whatever Houston and Dallas says, well, Texas does. On March 7th, 2021, executive order on promoting access to voting. I urge you to go ahead, click on the link here in the description, and read this entire thing, because it is a little concerning. On its face, it sounds all well and good until you realize how they're actually using this. Every agency in the federal government, except for a few, are able to register people to vote. Now, here's the thing, and this is my question to you. You've never registered to vote before. There's no point. You don't even want to. You don't want to participate in this bullshit pile. Okay? Federal government sees that, you're 30-something years old. You've never registered to vote ever, so you show no intentions of ever registering to vote or any vote whatsoever for any reason. So they take your last name, because they know this, your social security number, the last 4 digits of your social security number, and they register you to vote. Okay? They give all of your information to a criminal alien. Now, that criminal alien signs the document, signs the paperwork, signs any document using their signature with your name. How would you prove that you didn't vote? Furthermore, if you go to register to vote and somebody's already registered your name, your social security number, and you think, oh, well, I've already registered to vote, you go to vote. Now there's 2 ballots in your name because the criminal alien voted for you in your name. And there's your actual ballot, right? Well, the signature verification is going to reject one. Can you guess which one that is? That's right. It's going to reject yours because the criminal alien signature is the one that is the official signature, and your real signature doesn't match. This is the Social Security Administration weekly data for helping America vote verification transactions by state. Okay, basically what this is, hey, does this person exist? Okay, yes, they do exist. Does it tie to this Social Security number? Okay, yes, it ties to this Social Security number. Is there multiple matches for this name or this Social Security number? Yes, no, cool. Are they dead? Yeah, it gives off that information. It doesn't say whether they've actually registered to vote or not. It just says, hey, this person exists, this Social Security number exists, they're alive or dead. Okay? Basically what it is. I have this one set to the week ending of March 6, 2021. This was the day before the executive order went into effect. Texas, 34,399. There are 26,281 that are single matches and they're alive. 441 were dead. Doesn't seem like much. Now, in this, Texas and Missouri are the only ones that raised such an alarm, but there are some, if you actually take a look through the data week after week, there are some that kind of still make you question. We'll hit some of them. Missouri, 2,116 brand new registered voters who are going through a check to see if the name and the Social Security match up and if they're dead or if they're alive or not. 2,116 63 dead, 1,501 were actual single match, and they're still alive. March 13th, 2021. Look at Texas. 13,636. Not that big of a change. No people dead. 13,511 single match, still alive. All right. Now let's look at Missouri. 2,504. 1,670 were single match, still alive. 197 were dead. Next week. Oh, wait. Just to make sure, do we see any other huge numbers? Kansas. 41,528 people in a week tried to register to vote, and they're going through the system to make sure everything is okay. 26,813 are single match alive. 3,352 were dead in Kansas. So you mean to tell me that these brand new voters out of 41,528 that had just registered for the first time ever, and in a week when they registered, 3,352 dropped dead? This is week ending March 20th of 2021. Looking through the first column. Kansas, again, 45,500 in 1 week. This is the next week from what we just saw. So now there is over 80,000 people, first-time registers to vote. 29,870 this week are alive, single match, to name and social security number. 3,424 were dead. So again, we now have over 7,000 people that have registered in 2 weeks' time that have registered to vote for the very first time and then dropped dead. Something about this doesn't seem right, does it? Especially throughout the entire rest of the country, except for Texas, which automatically takes a huge jump again of over 10,000 people in 1 fucking week. Nobody else. Pennsylvania. Yeah, I would expect a 4-digit number from Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a big populated area. New York, with New York being the way it is, especially with New York City, that seems pretty low. New Jersey, New Jersey's a blue state. Missouri doesn't have an effect yet. It looks like they were looking through Kansas at the beginning of that. But this ends March 20th of 2021. Let's head into the next week, March 27th of 2021. Oh, wait, Arizona, 10,000. 10,000 people. Nothing really happened in March to get people to vote. To register to vote. Nothing really happened. Even the midterms weren't even kicking off at that point in time. 10,000 spikes. 4,449 single match alive. 72 were dead. Kansas, 48,810. Again, third week in a row, Kansas hits 5-digit numbers. 32,355 matches, single match alive. 3,504 were dead. So now we are looking at over 10,000 fucking people. Over 10,000 people. We have reached almost 100,000 and over 10,000 people were dead. 1 in 10 of these new registered voters that are supposedly registering for the first time, 1 in 10 of them are dead in Kansas. Texas, 57,533. 40,565 single match alive. 931 dead. First time new registered voters. Now, let's go into April. Kansas, again, 50,000. It's a little extreme that we're going with these big numbers here, seeing as how there ain't many other states except for Texas at this point that are getting people to come and register to vote at this large amount of people. It makes no sense. 33,912 single matches alive. 3,640 in 1 week's time wound up dead. We're a little under a tenth right now. Texas again, 58,280, 41,021 single match alive, 931 dead. But you get the point. Texas continues to show higher numbers. They go off into a 2-week period where it breaks over 6 digits at that point in time. Kansas falls off, Missouri picks up, especially with the death counts, so on and so forth. Now, the reason why I'm going to bring this up to you here is actually because of this little nugget here. at the time of recording, 270 to win.com. As everything stands right now. Let's just, every toss-up state, let's take a deep red. We're going to do everything. As a matter of fact, I'll cut this. We're going to put everything deep red. Okay, now we take everything else deep blue. Now, this is the most extreme division, okay, within the country. All these illegals come to Texas. You put them in blue cities. Those cities, Houston, you know, the type. Those cities turn that state blue because they're handing illegals the ability to vote in your name. How can you prove otherwise now? Remember Kansas being a thing very early on? They win. Reset. Didn't we see a whole bunch of shit happen in Missouri with a lot of dead voters? They win. That's with both. That's what they're doing. What's your answer to that, guys? That's what they're doing. That's my theory. What's your answer to that? What have you got for this? Now, this is already starting to hit the upper echelons of political talk in independent media and everything because, well, some of us within the Temple Discord and elsewhere and other groups, we're starting to dive into this really, really deep. And, well, this little nugget of information came from Tim himself. Check this out.
Let's do a complete 180 and talk about this from SCNR. West Virginia, Mississippi to defy 3-year-old voter access executive order from Biden. West Virginia Secretary of State said, "We will emphatically not give up our state's duty to register voters to the federal government, nor will we accept voter registration forms collected by federal agents." March 7th, 2021. Shout out to Timcast members. This was on the Timcast IRL member show that this was brought up to us. Executive order. Do you guys know which user it was? You want to pull the name up?
I forget her name, but it was Shane Wilder retweeted
Well, one of you find it, and then I'll read this.
Yeah.
This is an executive order from March 7th, 2021, which says, "By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution of the United States of America, I hereby order as follows. The right to vote is a foundation of American democracy. Free and fair elections that reflect the will of the people must be protected and defended. But many Americans, especially people of color, confront significant obstacles to exercising that fundamental right. These obstacles include difficulties with voter registration, lack of elected information, and barriers to access polling places, blah, 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 blah." He was going to say a bunch of critical race theory stuff and woke stuff. Now, here's what gets interesting. He says the head of each agency shall evaluate ways in which the agency can, as appropriate and consistent with applicable law, promote voter registration and voter participation. The effort shall include the consideration of ways to provide relevant information, facilitate seamless transition of agencies' websites, distributing voter registration and vote-by-mail ballot application forms, and providing access to applicable state online, yada, yada. Where it gets really interesting is, I believe, Section 5, whether consistent with applicable law, any identity documents issued by the agency to members of the public can be issued in a form that satisfies state voter identification laws. To simplify, agency is defined legally in this executive order as any federal executive office, except a couple of them. But for the most part, any one of them. This executive order says the agencies will start sending out voter registration forms and mail-in voting applications to people in various states, and then it will help them produce IDs to get them to vote. This is the federal government directly intervening in state-level registration processes.
It was Dancing Okapi that
shout out.
Brought it up.
Now this is where it's important. Texas said when the Social Security Administration released these huge numbers every other week, hundreds of thousands of people registering to vote without IDs. Texas says, we have no idea what you're talking about. This is not true. It may be the federal government collecting these IDs, and that makes me substantially more concerned. These are illegal immigrants that are registering to vote. And I didn't think that at first when we saw, let me pull up the HAVV. So this is the Help America Vote Verification. Are you familiar with this, Dennis? Yeah. So what we've found And what's been going around? Let's grab the latest from March 30th, and we can see if Texas's numbers are here. 225,000 verification requests, 190,000 matches. Texas says this is clearly wrong. We don't know what this is. Well, now we may know what it is. It may be, and again, not sure. But if Texas is saying, their Secretary of State said, we do not know what this number is, it's clearly an error. Or it could be the federal government has been registering people to vote and taking those forms and requesting information from the SSA to verify the numbers are in the database. It may be the federal government has not yet delivered these registrations to the state, which is where we end up with this story from SCNR. When West Virginia says we will not accept voter registration forms collected by federal agents, it may be that they've collected millions and have not yet turned them.
Again, the argument is going to be, well, if the illegals are going to be counted towards the census and gives them the seats in the House, wouldn't that mean that Texas benefits the most? Yes, of course Texas would benefit the most, but let me ask you a question. If you give illegals, if you register people to vote and you give illegals a document, they sign the document using your name and their signature, making that the official signature, and any other signature would be kicked out for signature verification. Now the illegal can vote in your name. What do you think they're going to vote for? They're going to vote for the guy that wants to get rid of them because they're here illegally? Or are they going to vote for the guy that wants to give them everything, your money, your land, your jobs, and keep you here and make you a citizen? Now, the registration part, we need to get that information out there. People need to know that because that is a huge clue as to what is happening right now. The whole voting part, y'all take it how you want to, have your little talking points, make your little decision about that, however you want to play. I don't care. Just get this information out, guys. This is going to be something big. And for the first time, stop being reactive and be proactive and go on the attack with this. Let people know what's happening, how this is playing out, what's going on, and make them understand. These are first-time registered new voters. Why would they check if they have ever voted?